So as some of you guys know, Mark Harley has been making the rounds on YouTube and exposing Brandon for being a delusional, narcissistic employer. So this whole thing stemmed from Brendan mistreating Mark as an employee. Mark felt like he wasn't being respected by him. He felt like there was some personal tension between them. Mark mentions there was like a couple of dust up, and so he kind of felt like there was some sort of animosity towards Mark. I don't think he was expecting this to happen the way it did. So I think that's what kind of rubbed him the wrong way, the way he got fired. So we'll watch this clip and he will explain a little bit of dust up he was having with Brendan.
I want to get back to this. You were fired. When did you learn about this firing? How quick was it?
What I think actually was an example of like a sort of little dust up that happened before, but there was a series of these little things where I'd kind of push back and stand up for myself. And generally speaking, like I wouldn't be speaking on this if it was like, if I felt like I was the only person who ever experienced this, but know that if I say something, it's probably indicative of a general pattern of if you see people leaving, it might be because of the way that their boss is treating them, and it's less than respectful. And I've
Wow.
listed off, we've had discussions before where I go, hey man, I feel like you're disrespecting me. And it goes, well, how so? And I'll list off like 10 things, and then he goes, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. And I'm like, no, it's not about being sorry I want you to
Sure.
address, is this indicative of you not liking me or thinking I'm a bad employee or what? Like, because he would pair things like that, I love you, but, and then shit on me. And I'm like, let's get to the bottom of this. What is your actual perception of me? Because I feel like you're subverting me in
And
a
this
lot of
is
ways.
with you and Brendan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And went out of his way to like try and.
So then he goes on to talk about Bryan Callen, and then they kind of go on a tangent. I don't feel like it's necessary for this topic because it's kind of like we're not discussing Bryan here. And he goes on to talk about great things about Bryan, that he doesn't seem to be like the weird guy that people depict him as, because all those R word allegations and stuff. So Mark pretty much says like, oh, he like, I don't see him that way. Like personally, to me, in my eyes, like I've never really seen like a bad side from him, but we've had our problems. That's what he later goes on to talk about. Then we'll jump to the next important part. Is so Brendan asked him to make reels on Instagram because he felt like his engagement on Instagram wasn't really strong. So he asked Mark to do reels, and then post them, right? That's his job, to make reels, edit, and do the thumbnails and whatnot. But he was also having personal problems. Like he had problems with his girl. They went to Vegas. He was coming back and they were having issues. And then Brendan was over here pressing him about the work that he missed out on, but he apparently told somebody on the studio, on one of the managers or something, that he was gonna be gone for a bit, and he's still gonna do the job, but he wasn't gonna make it in time, and somebody could take over his shift. But Brendan didn't notice that, or didn't realize that, or didn't acknowledge it, or whatever, right? For some reason he didn't know about it, and he thought Harley was ducking him.
Fired actually because I couldn't come in on a Monday for Schaub Show. Now, come to find out later that Brendan had actually taken me off the payroll for Thick Boy,
Ooh.
like after our last disagreement. I didn't realize it at the time, but he wasn't paying me to be there for the Schaub Show, in which I take pictures, I annotate
Wow.
quotes during the show. I kind of just help, produce the show in a minor, like a PA, I guess.
Sure.
But I'm just there. I'm one of the hands on deck, just going, let's get these quote cards out as soon as possible. I write the episode description, I write the title. Sometimes I do the thumbnails, stuff like that.
That's a lot of work. I'm telling you, that sounds like no work, but I hate doing that kind of stuff. That stuff could take you 2-3 hours, to do stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's like, I like learning that stuff, but it's not, I think people can see it as insignificant, or kind of, oh yeah, you just make.
No, it's not insignificant. Trust me. Even as simple as, we have to pick the thumbnail for each episode. That could take an hour. And it can be very grueling, frustrating, tedious work to do these little things that we see everybody else doing. You mentioned, I want to go back to this really quick. You said Bryan Callen was careful.
And also, I'd like to add that he is quite annoyed that Brendan lies about the people he fires. And he said that, like, Shrimp, as you guys know, he said that he fired him, but he actually got a different job. So Brendan likes to lie. But let's go to the one where he talks about his girlfriend.
To ascertain a different outcome, but look, people, and I almost think that
Ooh.
he sees that as a money saving endeavor, like just firing people and loading up the you know the responsibilities on other people. And I was going to finish my thought on getting fired is
Yeah,
that
please.
I couldn't come in on Monday, and it was really stressing me out because I was actually in Vegas with my girl, and
Hell yeah.
she'd been mad at me for months and months and months because I was going on the road with him. We didn't have time for dates. We didn't have, you know, a lot of like downtime. And so we went to Vegas for the night to go see a Cirque du Soleil show and go get dinner. And then we ended up like not being able to get back as early as we thought we were going to. And so I basically covered my shift. I said, hey, look, I already talked to one of the other guys at Thick Boy. He's going to be able to do my job this morning. And I'm going to come in later for TFAT-K, and I'm going to edit, as many reels as you need, right? Because that was,
Sure.
I started basically moving to being an editor. I learned how to do Adobe Premiere while I was at the studio, and I was getting, pretty good and pretty fast at making reels.
Sure.
And so I said, I'm going to come back. I'm going to get the footage from Chin. I'll put in my 8-hour shift or whatever after, it's just going to be tonight. And it was like just a shitty message back. Like,
Ooh.
I was stressed out sending it. I don't like missing work. I don't like letting people down. But again, I'd already been fired. Like, I'd already been taken off the payroll for Thick Boy. So I wasn't even being paid for that. Like, those, because I got paid from Fight on the Kid, the Golden Hour, and Thick Boy. So I've been taken off that payroll, but somehow I'm getting reprimanded for not showing up. And
Wow.
then on my way back from Vegas, Brendan almost never asks about reels, like the Fight on the Kid reels, like the social media clips. But for some reason, after the Bradley Martin episode, he was like really concerned about, like, guys, are we on top of the reels? Mark, are you on top of it? Texting the
Wow.
group in a kind of aggressive way after he'd had a kind of little dust up with the booker in another group chat. And I hate when people take, like, it's like if you get in a fight with somebody and you come back and you're shitty to me, it's like, hey, dude, don't fucking do that.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, don't take that weird energy and come back at me. So what I did was, now this, keep in mind, that episode dropped at like 6:15 p.m. He's already texting before it drops, going, Mark, are you on top of the reels? Like, are you editing the reels right now? And I, keep in mind, I said I was going to. He's never had an instance where I said I was going to do something and didn't. And so Chin corrects him and goes like, well, the episode's not even live yet. He can't even have the footage. Like I can't even send it to him yet. I have to Dropbox it to him. And then I decided I didn't like the tone of this. It's 6:30 p.m. He knows exactly what was going on. I made a promise to him. This is the first time he's ever been the day before concerned about getting the reels out the next day when I've always done them on time. It's never been an issue, and he's never
Yeah.
even cared about it, even if they were late. And so I decided to not text him back.
Wow. And
And
how do you take
I
that?
said, you know what? I'm going to.
I mean, as I said before, like Mark felt like this was more personal and this was probably coming soon. He didn't want to acknowledge that Mark actually did the work. So instead of seeing that Mark did all the work, he actually fired him, got somebody else supposedly, right? Just told him it wasn't gonna work out between them. So Mark was very upset about that. That's why he's doing this whole tour to expose Brendan for being a bad employer.
So,
Uh-oh.
but when the episode dropped at 6:15, I'm driving home from Vegas, right? I've got the wheel in one hand, the earphones in. I'm taking notes with my other hand throughout the whole episode, making time code notes with my free hand so that I can get home, immediately start editing. And by 9 a.m., I had edited 5 reels and had a sixth one on the way. Now, keep in mind,
Wow.
every other editor would do one by the next day. I got home, I started editing, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to go above and beyond. And it wasn't like I was MIA for the whole time, but let's say by 10:15 p.m., he'd had the first reel. And then at 12, he had another reel. And then at 3 a.m., he had another reel. And at 6 a.m., he had another reel. And, so I just kept going like, this will kind of, I knew he wasn't going to be happy about it, but I decided to set up, like the Joker in the Dark Knight, where it's
Sure.
like, who are you going to pick? Like, which one are you going to choose? I set up a situation to me that was like, are you going to choose to freak the fuck out because I didn't text you back for a few hours? or are you going to congratulate me on going above and beyond and
And
making
doing the 5
excellent
reels,
meals?
yeah.
Yeah, when you've only ever had one by the next morning around 9, 10, or 11, and you can imagine what he chose.
So what did he say to you?
Well, keep in mind, he'd been texting me throughout this, like, hey, Mark, are you on? Hello, Mark. You can't not text Brendan back. And this has been a sort of ongoing theme
He
with
gets
many
mad about
people.
that, huh?
He goes, you alive? You alive? Are you there? And even whether you're employed by him or you're a friend that he feels like he has control over because maybe you open for him or something like that, the moment he gives you money of any sort or does anything, there's a feeling like he owns you for the rest of your life, right?
Ooh.
And tend to not like that if they value their autonomy. So I didn't text him back for a few hours. I did it deliberately. It was
Sure.
stressful for me because he's hitting the group text. He's texting me privately, like he sees that I had read the text message. He goes, Mark, this is silly. Just text me back. Just let me know. I have to hire a whole nother editor. So he made this crisis out of it, like I had to hire a whole nother editor because you didn't come. And I go, by 10 p.m., don't tell me that you'd hired some other guy who's already starting working. You couldn't do it. And I even said the next day when he said it in the group chat, he finally woke up and saw I'd been sending all these reels. He's like, yeah, Mark, I don't know. We had to hire someone else, man. You went MIA and you really fucked us. And I go, well, okay, so you hired somebody else. How much did you pay them? I'll cash app you right now. I'll reimburse you. So that wasn't enough. And then he keeps going. He's like, this is just not how it's done, like blah, 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 really laying into me. And I go, I think if you just got all the work that I did, I basically worked for 15 hours straight after giving you a reasonable excuse and getting my shift covered in the morning. If you're concerned about me not texting you back for a few hours after I'm offering to pay, maybe you have your priorities backwards. And of course, he didn't like that. So it escalated to him just going, yeah, man, I'm sorry, this isn't working out. I can pay you for February, um, which, we'll see about that. There's a lot of
He
reasons
still
to
hasn't
believe I
paid.
won't be getting into a lot of these things, but this time I'd had other issues before where he kind of like blamed it on me, or he'd go like, other people are saying this, and then I'd go to them and apologize and say, hey man, if I did something that upset you, or if my behavior in any way.
Mark also said he wasn't ever going to work with him again.
But it was always about me and him, because everyone else at Thick Boy is great. Everyone else that I've worked with there.
Okay, so you would say your relationship with Brendan is not good. You got a sour taste in your mouth about working with these guys here. Would you go back to working with Fighter and the Kid if they apologized for this?
Never.
Okay, so
never.
And I think this is where we're going to end this, guys. So thank you for watching, and like and subscribe and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Laters.